What made the weird kid at your school weird? The Vine where a kid goes, "I have the power of God and anime on my side," and screams like a banshee went to my middle school. He was maybe 4 grades underneath me, but his weirdness turned him into one of the most popular kids in his grade. Kid smelled like he bathed in cat pee every day. Hissed at anyone who came near him. Used to run through the hallways from class to class. Threatened to kill me in a computer lab because I used Internet Explorer instead of Firefox. Had one girl in my year who had a weird obsession with our physics teacher. Then in a lesson learning about spinning forces, she asked if she could show a cool video to the class. He said yes. The video was of her spinning on a pole in her underwear. When he sent her out, she was yelling the whole way, "Why, are you saying that pole dancing is sexual? 'Cause that's sexist." She wore butt-skimming skirts with fishnet tights and corsets on non-uniform day as well. Always got sent straight home. They ended up expelling her when we were about 17. There was a kid in my school who was obsessed with Mario. He had Mario sweatshirts and notebooks, and a Mario backpack. Well, someone figured out that if you told him Mario is dead, he'd flip. Scream and cry "fuck you know he's not" every time. He got in trouble multiple times for attacking kids who said anything about Mario dying, even if they were talking about in the context of Smash Brothers or something. This happened 8th, 10th grade, then I never saw him again. Kid always wore a zoot suit. Every day. Not that weird, I guess. But back in high school, weird as hell. Edit, some more details. These were not Salvation Army/hand-me-downs quality. This kid wore nothing but high-quality zoot suits, with a chain and nice shoes to match. Every once in a while he had a chrome-tipped, black cane. He had bright-colored ones, pinstriped ones, dark blue ones, and pure black ones. Didn't see him with the hat very often though. This was in 2005 6ths. I think he won Best Dressed in the yearbook. I don't have one to confirm though. Mustard boy. I'll never forget him. He would cover his lunch tray in mustard. Chicken nuggets? Mustard. Mexican pizza? Mustard. Breakfast for lunch? Mustard. It didn't matter what it was, he would drench it in mustard. He wasn't doing it just to make a mess of his lunch tray, he always finished his mustard food. Edit, Mexican pizza was a hexagon-shaped pizza with sausage and shredded taco seasoned cheese on top. It wasn't at all Mexican, but that's what it was called. He would jack off in the middle of class. He didn't actually pull it out, but he would aggressively rub the side of his pants and his face would get really red while staring at the girls in the class. Everybody noticed, but a word was never spoken about it. He was on a hair trigger, would snap and threaten people. Suspended multiple times. 2 memorable incidents were when we freaked out at an art teacher. He went to his locker and came back with a bullwhip. He made that thing snap and sent everyone running. She barricaded herself in the supply room. Another time someone made the mistake of teasing him about something and everyone laughed, and he pulled a knife and screamed, "Who wants to the first to DE?" He was expelled and I'm not sure what became of him. I had a few. One was obsessed with all Asian culture, kind of random since we lived in a very rural community in Canada with little connection to the outside world, let alone to Asia, and would lose her mind if anyone said anything remotely negative about it. It started out as mainly just a fixation on Pokemon, anime, and K-pop, but quickly branched out to all things Asian. She once hit me with a textbook because we were discussing M. Butterfly in class and I said that I didn't like it. This was at age 16. Another kid used to pick his nose until it bled and then go home because he had a nosebleed. He would also eat the boogers. We were all surprisingly chill about that part of his personality. The thing we all hated most about this kid is that he would lie about the most random stuff. Like he would deny that he got hit when playing dodgeball or caught when playing tag on the playground. One time my neighbor made me a little Inukshuk glued to a piece of driftwood and I brought it to school to show the class. This kid picked it up in front of everyone, immediately dropped and broke it, and then denied that it was him that broke it, even though we had all literally watched him do it. He cried when we continuously called him out on it. This was also at age 16. Edited to added that the lying kid one time broke his arm and came to school in a sling. The next day the sling was on the opposite arm. Even the teacher called him out on that one. In hindsight, she wasn't so weird. She just marched to the beat of her own drum. She was very overweight and had a lot of health issues, including more than one skin condition, so people saw her as gross, and they avoided her. I can remember all the way back in 1st or 2nd grade when we did dancing in gym class, no one wanted to be her partner because her hands were covered in scaly rashes. But she was smart and she had an odd sense of humor, and despite how everyone treated her, she was confident in herself and never hid any part of her personality. She was always the first to speak up in class and she challenged other people's opinions so readily. But at the same time, she was constantly falling asleep in class, and she snored so loudly. I remember she sat behind me during our AP exam for American history, and for the life of me I could not focus on my test because she was breathing so loud. She was incessantly bullied, to the point of being pity voted on to prom court. She had one real friend. And then a year after we graduated, she died completely unexpectedly. I remember waking up to go to work one morning and my best friend had texted me that she was dead, and I was absolutely shocked. Apparently, she had been out to dinner with her aunt, and on her way back to the table from the bathroom, she collapsed and they couldn't resuscitate her. They did an autopsy and couldn't confirm a cause of death. Her mother died about a week after she did, and they had a joint funeral. Probably the saddest funeral I've been to. The worst part about her death was that I lived in a really small town, so it's all anyone was talking about for weeks. Her biggest bullies were some of the loudest voices. Some people from my graduating class held a memorial service for her where they sent off paper lanterns, but I couldn't get myself to go because it was full of all the people who made high school miserable for her. I couldn't bear to listen to them talk about how great she was, how beautiful she was, when they never held those sentiments when she was alive. I had a locker above his and he always yelled something stupid. The most common phrase was "I got balls in my face." He also somehow brought koala poop to the school. Edit, there was a possibility that it really wasn't koala poop, but it was small brown pellets in a small bag with a koala on it. My weird kid stood up at an assembly and asked the vice principal if she knew what hentai was. Edit, she did not comment on whether or not she did, he was just told to sit down because the students immediately started laughing. Sorry for the unsatisfying ending. My little sister was really into manga when she was younger. I was 14 years older than she was. My wife and I took her to a bookstore, and for whatever reason I had the word hentai in my mind. I asked one employee if he had any books on drawing hentai, that my 8-year-old sister was really into it and wanted to learn how to draw it. Dude looked at me really weird. It then dawned on me what I said. I immediately redacted that statement and screamed, "Manga, I mean manga, she wants to draw manga." Not my proudest moment in life. He was caught eating berries off of a tree branch in a compost trash can in 5th grade. He'd act feral around everyone else, but if you got to know the kid, he was actually pretty down to earth and cool. In middle school around 6th grade I tried getting to know him better and found out he might have had some kind of multiple personality disorder, and was grateful for someone who didn't judge him that much. I'd try my best to not get him to do stupid stuff. He was later expelled for what everyone said was biting a teacher. I saw him once during high school and he got really freaking hot too, seemed way chilled out. When I asked about why he left, he said he wasn't allowed to talk about it but was getting help, so that's always good. Gabe, if you're out there, I hope you're doing well. He always carried around a briefcase, but never opened it. Sat on the briefcase during lunch, classes, etc. It was like the nuclear football, always in his hand or he was sitting on it. He carried it onto the stage during graduation, got his diploma. Right as he was leaving the stage, he opened it up and dumped a bunch of confetti on the principal. I guess it was the long con? No one questioned why he was carrying it on stage. They thought they were an immortal vampire, and walked around talking and acting the part. Yeah, I knew a homeschool kid who was convinced he was Spider-Man. Like he'd try to climb up walls and flick his wrists to fling web. If you didn't play along, he would run crying to his mom. Edit, my mom was casual friends with his mom, so that's how we met. I vaguely remember other experiences with this kid. I didn't get along with him. That's putting it nicely. We basically hated each other, but my mom forced me to go to his birthday party. We had to play hide and seek, but were told by his mom that we had to purposefully let him find us. He also had an older brother that would run off into a corner and cry over the slightest provocation. He would talk to himself and sit in the hallways reciting as many digits of pi as he could. He was a small harmless kid that everyone treated well because he was endearingly weird, if that makes sense. Then he murdered a girl immediately after graduation and hid her body in his bathtub. Edit, for the people interested in more or who think I'm lying, the kid's name was Jonathan Townsend. There's a lot more to the story. I didn't think many people would be this interested. There's a few news articles to look at just by Googling his name, but this one does a good job of explaining how nice he was at school versus how evil he was at home. I will link the article in the description below. There was a girl in grade 5 that created her own language called Schmalby, and she'd sit in the corner and whisper to herself in it. People also used to tell her there were spiders on her hair, and she'd get mad at them and scratch their faces. She purposely grew out the nails on her index, middle and ring fingers and filed them into sharp claws. To be fair, telling someone who is clearly not completely all there that they've got spiders in their hair is probably not going to end well for you. She ended up leaving the school in grade 6. Aside from that, in grade 3 I microwaved a kid's winter boots in our lunchroom because I thought they were the reason he ran faster than me. I was just fat. That was why he was faster. There was a kid in my 8th grade class who would spit in our teacher's coffee cup every day. He later killed himself while playing Russian roulette. Spent an entire year making a valiant effort at trying to lick his own ear. He never pulled it off. He truly thought he was a dirt bike. He would run through the halls jumping off of lockers and make the shifting gears noises with his mouth. Absolute mad lad. One walked around in high school with a stuffed possum and made it talk in class. Also went on a rant during a class debate about how much she hated Australia because a classmate from there rejected her. Had nothing to do with the debate topic. One claimed she was the CEO of her dad's company and made $1 million a year at 16. Also said she was the granddaughter of the King of Norway. She's not from Norway. Also tried to claim that her friend was killed during the 2011 Oslo terrorist attack. Again, not from Norway or Europe for that matter. Somehow I got classified as weird, but I'm really not sure why when I think about how many other weird kids went to my school. Kid in my class and got salt in his eye from a pretzel. The next day he came in with sunglasses on and claimed that he had to wear them because of what happened the day before. They were clearly McDonald's sunglasses. Had the logo on the side and everything. Same kid tried to fight a girl because her hand went on his side of the desk. He brought a watermelon to school. He also brought a cutting board, bowl and a knife to cut it open up with. I mean, how else are you going to eat it, right? He had really dry skin and would peel it off in sheets during band. I caught him snacking on the pieces a few times. We had a guy our freshman year that would talk in a very high-pitched voice in order to conserve air. He wore camo every day and drove a green Jeep. I always tried to be nice to him since we were all pretty sure he would be that kid, if you know what I mean. Horse girl, anyone? I had a classmate who was slash as a horse girl. It was all she ever talked about. She had these big plans to go to some school in Kentucky because of their equestrian program. She never got it, so ran away with her horse to Colorado. Last I checked, she was trying to legally marry her horse. I wish I was making this up. She would constantly cough in band class. First it would be small, unnoticeable coughs and the class would ignore her. Then she'd cough louder and louder and still no attention, so she'd start loudly apologizing for her coughing even though no one said anything. Finally, she'd had a loud coughing fit and yell, "Oh my God, I am so sorry, I cannot stop coughing." And the teacher would sigh and ask her if she wanted to go get a drink of water, so she'd go get one. Repeat several times a period, every single day. The teacher told her multiple times that she could go get a drink of water whenever she wanted if she was coughing, but she'd just constantly loudly apologize and interrupt band practice every 2 minutes. I grew up in the 90s, so at the height of the popularity of boy bands. There was this one kid, who was pretty good looking, kind of resembled Justin Timberlake, and he used to staple things to his nipples. I went to an arts high school where about half of the kids were gay, a lot of the kids were some version of goth, and the kids who wore Abercrombie clothes and hair gel and tucked in the front part of their shirt only were a bit ostracized because they just didn't fit in very much there. It was a good place. Well, there was Frog Boy. All he did was run around the woods catching lizards, frogs, raising tadpoles in a bucket. That kind of stuff. He had ADD before ADD was a thing, so he was labeled active, and our teacher would sometimes just let him run out of the classroom to do a couple laps. He was just crazy energetic, but all smiles. He superglued the woodshop tools to the wall. And he covered the school kitchen with flour. That kind of stuff. He went on to be a professional motocross rider. The weird kid at my high school tied a string around his pencil case and pulled out around the halls pretending it was a dog. He still lives in my hometown. I think unemployed. Oh, also weird girl in middle school acted like a cat. She would meow and hiss at people, lick the water fountain and rub her body on the teacher's legs. In 8th grade. I have no idea where she ended up. For elementary school, I was that weird kid. I didn't talk until I was 5, and when I started, I had maybe a 20-word vocabulary and only spoke when spoken to for about 3 to 4 years. But, at age 5 when I just started to talking, the local 10-year-old genius who was also our neighbor, was actually a genius, graduated at 12 or something close, walked up to me and said, "The answer to every question can be found through observing," and then walked off. That's it. That is all he said. I, on the other hand, was, and still am, an absolute idiot. What I interpreted from what he said was, the answer to every question is observing. Now, I knew this kid had the smarts I didn't have, so I took what he said very seriously and unfortunately very literally. My parents were freaking out. My school had to call my parents multiple times and eventually we had a big meeting that ended up landing me in therapy because for nearly a solid year, the only thing I ever said to anyone was observing. 2 by 2 equals? Observing. What do you want for tea? Observing. What is on the TV? Observing. Why the hell are you such a stupid freaking kid? Observing. Least weird thing was she would blow her nose then eat it. Bigger weird things were running head first into a wall shouting that she's stupid if she didn't get the scores she wanted. Another time running down the school field with teachers chasing while shouting I'm a ghost. Also announced she was pregnant because her boyfriend, who I don't know if was real, ejaculated, her words, on her knee. We always thought she had something going on and would tell the teachers something needed doing, but apparently they'd talk to the parents who refused tests. It was actually kind of sad and people generally just felt a bit sorry for her. A guy I knew in high school had a mouse living in his car. Not a pet mouse or anything, just a wild mouse. He would intentionally leave food in the backseat for it. I almost didn't believe it until I saw the thing run under the seat when he opened the door. He also wore this full cow suit to school one time, which freaked an autistic kid who had a specific fear of cows. There was a lot of debate if he wore it to freak the kid out or if he wore it just to be weird. He's a youth pastor now. As always, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, show your support. Leave your thoughts and opinions down below.